What's going on, guys? I'm Built, and welcome back to another Minecraft Bedrock farm tutorial video. In the last video we ended up building this mud machine here. This mud machine is very simple and easy to build and cheap and reliable. However, whenever you get to the very end of the push limit, it does present a problem, and that is what we are going to do with it. Now, this mud machine is perfectly fine if you want to go ahead and harvest it every time that it gets pushed out here. However, I did not include the cuber in the last tutorial to keep the tutorial short. And also, depending on whoever's making this, they might have different uses for it. They might want to blow this up with TNT, use gas to harvest it, withers to harvest it. They might want to send it in different directions. It just really all depends, so it was easier just to split this into two different tutorials. So let's say that you do want to make this into a giant cube. That way it's the most convenient way for you to jump on top of it and work your way down, harvesting all of this mud. I will also be showing you how to make this add-on to convert the mud into clay blocks. However, it's not really practical at the bottom of the big mud block. You can do this if you would like. However, it's probably the best used if you just make one flat thing of mud coming out. That way you only have clay that you're converting. Unless you want to convert a ton of mud with a little bit of clay, then this should work perfectly. Enough jibber jabber, let's jump into the tutorial, shall we? Everything that you're going to need is going to be down inside of the description below. Oh, and while you're down there, if you end up liking the video, drop a like for me. It really does help out the channel. Thanks. So the very first thing that we want to do is go ahead and send this into a smart piston at the very end of the push limit. So depending on what direction you want to go with it, you want to decide that, and then whatever direction you want it to go, you're going to have to add a piston to push it in that direction. So we can go ahead and place that down like that, and then we're going to want a solid block directly underneath that to power this. Then we can go ahead and bring that around there. And as you can see, whenever there is a solid block over top of that, it's going to power the block, powering this redstone. And then as soon as it powers this redstone, it will power that piston and push it. So if we go ahead and place down a block of mud there, it's going to power it and move it out of the way. We're going to want to do this until we get plenty of mud inside of here. That way it has that piston there at the push limit. So we'll just go ahead and keep on adding this. And once it stops, we know that that piston there is at the push limit. Now what you want to do, since you know that this is at its push limit, you want to come down here, and on the face of this torch you're going to place down two temporary blocks, a permanent block underneath it, and remove those two temporary blocks. Now you're going to bring this thing all the way across until it lines up with the end of the mud here, and then you're going to take pistons and push it all the way up, making sure that all of that mud gets pushed up into the air, and that way we can utilize a cuber for it. Now at the same time, if you wanted to use this as a clay farm like that, then you could just kind of move these pistons around instead of putting them on the bottom, and you can just place in your pistons like this to push it out into a flat platform, and then have your glass dripstone underneath it, and then that will convert everything for you. But for this, we're just going to focus on the mud cuber. So at this point you want to come to this side here, and we're going to bring this all the way across here. If you desire, you can get rid of these temporary blocks down here if you want. And then we need to take our redstone dust, and we're going to run our redstone dust all the way across here, just like so. Then we can grab an observer, and on this very end piece of mud, you're going to place an observer facing into that with the output arrow facing away from that mud. And then you're going to place down a temporary block here, a permanent block here, remove that temporary block, a temporary block here, permanent block here, and remove that temporary block. Then you can go ahead and place down a solid block here, and on the last three here, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, and bring it out by 1, and then 1, 2, 3, and bring it out one more time, making a small 3x3 platform. Next, grab you two repeaters, and we're going to place a repeater facing this way, and then a repeater facing into the side of that repeater. This one you can go ahead and put on a 2-tick delay. However, you may need to adjust this, but we'll start with a 2-tick delay and see how that goes. Now grab your redstone, and we're going to bring this all the way across here and then fill that in. So the reason why I said that you may need to adjust this is depending whether or not this thing's going across a chunk border or not, or if you're on a Bedrock dedicated server or realms, something like that, the ticking speed may be altered and it might end up making this thing to where it does not work properly. So we're going to start off with a 2-tick delay. That's where it seems to work best, and then you can go ahead and break that block right in front of that observer. It should push up by 1 and stop, and then you can go ahead and test it again. And every time that you put a block in front of that observer, it should push up by 1 and stop. If it does not, then you may need to adjust this and add some more delay to this repeater here. If you go ahead and put it on a 3-tick delay, it will probably still work. However, what happens if you put this on a 4-tick delay, it's not going to cancel out the second pulse. And then you're going to get something that looks like this, which will be a clock. And then the same thing happens whenever it's on a 1-tick delay as well. So start with a 2-tick delay, and if that does not work for you, then go ahead and add a 3-tick delay. but this is going to vary depending on if you're building this on a server, realm, or if you have this going across the chunk border. So now at this point we can go ahead and add a bunch more mud to this thing and make it go all the way up to the very top. So once you've gotten to a point to where you cannot possibly add any more dirt to this and it's at all of the piston push limits, what you need to do is go ahead and go to this side of this, or really depending what side you want it to push out. Just make sure if it pushes this direction it might collide with the machine and break it. So I would suggest pushing it in this direction here. What you want to do is go ahead and place down a block here and a block here. Make sure that there is a 1 block gap up from your pistons, and then go ahead and remove that temporary block. We're going to go ahead and bring this all the way across here. And then we can go ahead and place a temporary block here and bring this all the way up, and this is going to show us just how high we need to come with this. So make sure that that's level with the very top of the mud whenever it's at the max push limits. Now we can go ahead and bring this across on every second level. So we're going to make an air block and then solid block, an air block and then solid block. So this is what you should have. So now at this point we need to go ahead and remove all of this mud without breaking any of the blocks behind it. And once you've done that, this is what you should have left over. So at this point what you want to do is go ahead and grab you some pistons. Remember, this whole entire line is temporary blocks, so you don't want to place anything there. This is just so you know how high to go. So go ahead and take your regular pistons, and we're going to place regular pistons going all the way across right up here. Next you're going to make another row, and you're going to keep this going until this is all the way up until you get to the very top of this block here. And at this point you should have an entire wall of pistons, and if you look at it from the back you should have this as well. So what we need to do now is we no longer need this. We can go ahead and remove this entire temporary structure here. Next, what you're going to want to do is go ahead and find the very top and take a glass block, place down a glass block here, a temporary block under it, and a glass block to the right of it, just like that. Then you're going to place down another glass block, temporary block, glass block, and you're going to keep doing this until you get down to the very bottom. Once you're down to the very bottom, you can go ahead and grab your redstone dust, and we're going to line every single thing that's exposed here. So we're going to bring redstone dust all the way across here, all the way across here, all the way up all of this glass, and fill in everything that you can with redstone dust. Now that everything else is completely covered with redstone dust, we're going to take us some solid blocks, and we're going to go to the second level here and go to this glass block where it's dead even in the center here. We're going to build this out by 1 and to the left by 3. 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to build this out an additional 1 and build it to the left by 2. Just like that. Next we're going to take our redstone repeaters, and we're going to place a repeater here with a repeater here just like before. And we're going to take our redstone dust and follow that around. Now once again you may have to readjust this. We'll have to see. We're going to start off with a 2-tick delay here, and then we'll go from there. Next to this point we're going to place down a temporary block, a solid block, break it, and then a temporary block, solid block, and then break it, a temporary block, solid block, break it, and we're going to stare up in this direction. What we're going to be staring up to is going to be at the very top of this piston here. If you're looking at the front of the wall of pistons, you're going to go to the very top right. We're going to place down a temporary block there with an observer facing into that temporary block. Make sure that output arrow is facing away to the right hand side. We're going to go ahead and remove that temporary block, and then we're going to place down another temporary block here and a permanent block down below. Now all we need to do is bring this down and connect it over here. So we're going to temporary block, permanent, temporary block, permanent, temporary block, permanent, and it will meet up perfectly. Now we're going to take this and run a redstone line all the way down here. And this is basically going to be the trigger that's going to be responsible for triggering this entire wall of pistons. So we can go ahead and place down a block here, and you should have every single one of your pistons trigger and push, and it should only do it one time. If it does it more than once, then go ahead and adjust this repeater here, and then it will not make the clock anymore. Again, depending on the world, if it's on a realm server or if it's built inside of a chunk border. Now you might have noticed even whenever I place down a block here, it does not push the mud out, and that's because this mud is still actively below the pistons here. So if you want to go ahead and make this to where it pops it up, you can either go ahead and place down a block here and trigger it real quick, or you could just go ahead and break that mud block and it would push it up either way. So this thing is pretty much done. Let's go ahead and go over here and feed it some more dirt and see how it does. Alright, it looks like this thing's just about 1 block away from pushing out, so let's go ahead and add one more piece of dirt to the mud machine, and it looks like it worked. Yep, everything got pushed out. We don't have no mud remaining. And that basically just resets the machine, so we can go ahead and start placing in some more dirt. That's going to convert it into mud. And then it's going to restart the filling process, pushing it up until it gets to this point, and then it'll push it out again, which will make this entire cube once all of these pistons get to their push limit. Well guys, that's going to wrap up this Minecraft Bedrock farm tutorial video. I really hope this video helps you guys out, and I really hope that you guys find a lot of use for this inside of your world. If you guys have any questions or comments, please drop them down inside of the comments below. While you're down there, if you feel like this video deserved a like, please drop a like for me, as it really does help out the channel. If you want to see some more 1.19 farms coming up on the channel, then go ahead and drop a subscribe if you have not already. And make sure that you go ahead and hit that bell notification. That way you don't miss any of the upcoming videos. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.